Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I am so excited for today's episode. I've long been excited about this one. Once we came across this entrepreneur's business, even just seeing the name of her business and seeing the energy that she puts into it, I was like, we have to reach out to her. We have to have her on the show. So I'm going to tell you about today's guest. Her name is Misa Bacon. She is the founder of, are you ready for it? Perfectly Kept Books. Perfectly Kept Books is a business that helps female-led entrepreneurs and a lot of different types of businesses keep perfectly kept books so that they can live stress-free. They don't have to worry about audits. They can make smarter financial decisions based on where they are. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Misa. After spending years climbing the corporate ladder, she left to pursue her true passion, helping female business owners understand their numbers and demystify bookkeeping so it becomes an enjoyable part of their day-to-day lives. That's a big barometer to which we're going to try to get Misa to show us how it can be when it comes to accounting. Misa has learned that many business owners don't know what they don't know when it comes to their finances and understands that bookkeeping can be intimidating and often frustrating. She's now on a mission to empower them with education and knowledge so they can focus on what they do best, running their business, which is why I know so many of you are tuning in today. Misa is also a mom of a very creative daughter and enjoys music, movies, and books in her spare time. There's so much I want to dive into. So without further ado, let's dive into my interview with Misa Bacon. All right, Misa, I'm clearly excited about today's session. Welcome to the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Hi, Brian. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Heck yeah. So obviously you've got a lot to live up to, Misa. First of all, your company name, Perfectly Kept Books, is awesome. But also in your bio, you said, we're going to make bookkeeping and accounting fun here today. So I'm excited to see how you do that. But first things first, go beyond the bio for us. Fill listeners in on who is Misa.
Okay, well, who am I? Well, I started off my career in the corporate world, working in the accounting department. And it was fun for a while. I was doing what we normally do, work your way up. But then I got to a point where I kind of hit a ceiling and I couldn't go any further. And I got a little frustrated. And I was like, I needed to do more. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to start a business, but I'm like, what business would that be? So I'm like, I work in accounting. Bookkeeping, it falls under accounting. So it just ended up working out perfectly. I came across this wonderful website. It was Ambitious Bookkeeper. And that really encouraged me to just go ahead and get started. And it's been so fun of a journey to kind of learn all the things about running a business, but then also being able to help so many business owners understand their bookkeeping and have fun with it, because that's something I'm really, really passionate about, is making it a little bit more fun and exciting, because it can be kind of dull and boring. But that's not what I want when you come into my world.
Yeah, I love it. And obviously, it's so evident in all the work that you do. I'm telling you, and obviously, we're going to point listeners to your business's website at the end of today's episode. But it's so clear that you genuinely love what you do. And having read so many of your testimonials, as I was doing research for today's interview, it's clear that everybody not only loves working with you from an accounting and bookkeeping perspective, but also your energy with regards to you love business growth. You love entrepreneurship. Talk to us about where that comes from, Misa, especially after what I presume to be a pretty, good career in corporate working for other people. What got you here?
Well, the thing is, so when in corporations, you see how they can grow these wonderful, grand businesses, and it's awesome. But the thing that they have that most entrepreneurs don't have is they have all these departments helping to support and uplift the business itself. But then when it comes to entrepreneurs and you're trying to build, your small business, most of the time they don't have that support. They don't have the resources. It's very difficult to find good help in the areas that you probably lack. And the big area that I know most entrepreneurs struggle with is on the financial side, because not everyone likes numbers. Not everyone wants to deal with it. They usually do it once a year for tax time and they don't want to look at it anymore. But it's the most important part of your business. I always say, if you don't have your books in order, I don't know what type of business you're running, because every business has to have a good foundation on bookkeeping if they really want to grow a successful business. So that's where I stand on that piece.
Yeah, and I'm going to add to what you said, and I'm sure that you also echo this, is that if you don't know where your business stands financially, not only does Misa not know where your business is, but you probably don't know where your business is. And Misa, I love that you jumped straight to where so many of our entrepreneurial minds go, which is tax season. Now, obviously, this episode airs after tax season is concluded, so you're right. A lot of entrepreneurs are going to think, well, I don't have to worry about that until next April. Talk to us about the importance of bookkeeping in between, why it's not just about taxes.
Exactly. So the thing about bookkeeping is, yes, you do want to do it at tax time because you need to file your taxes. But bookkeeping is something you actually want to do every single month, because it's actually telling the story of your business. So if you ever wanted to know, okay, we just finished a quarter, we just finished a new quarter, and we're starting the next quarter. What should my goals be? What should I plan for the rest of the year? Your bookkeeping will literally tell you what to focus on. So it's like, okay, are you earning enough revenue to cover to even just cover your business expenses? We're not even talking about you personally. Like, can your business support itself? That's one piece. And then another piece is like, okay, well, you need your business to support you too. So is your business bringing in enough money to support itself and support you? Like, these are all the questions that you want to ask yourself. And then you can get those answers through your bookkeeping. So it's not just, okay, end of the year, let's do the bookkeeping and get my taxes done. It's like, no, let's look at these numbers every single month so I know what's really going on. And then I can plan and make goals based on what I actually see.
Yeah, I love that overview, particularly because you're already scratching the surface of the more strategic questions that these financial answers can give us. And you're right, so many entrepreneurs are operating without any clue. It's almost as if they're operating blindfolded. Right. And as a result of that, I'm sure you personally see way more issues than what I've seen in all the entrepreneurs I've worked with. If they don't know where their money's coming in from, if they don't know how much money's coming out. I mean, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, we're all suckers for good tools. And you and I are actually going to talk about tools in our conversation here today, but they end up just signing up for this tool and that tool and that tool. Mm-hmm. Entrepreneurs love investing in ourselves, but sometimes to our detriment. Talk about some of those mistakes that you see people make when they are operating from a blindfolded position of finances.
So some of the biggest things I see is when it comes to like finding help. Whether that's, hiring a bookkeeper or a business coach, or looking at signing up for a course or a mastermind, something like that, something that's probably going to cost a lot of money. And usually people will just be like, okay, I'm going to sign up for it and this is going to be great. It's going to grow my business and, we're going to be, on to the next step. But it's like, if you take a step back and actually look at your numbers first, you might realize that, oh, maybe I need to make this decision first before I invest in that course or hire that person. Or on the bookkeeping side of things, something that I really encourage people to do is you don't have to hire a bookkeeper right away. Like, yes, you have a business and yes, the bookkeeping has to get done, but it doesn't have to be done by a bookkeeper. Instead, what you could do is, okay, let me do my bookkeeping, but let me get the help of a professional to make sure it's set up and I can do it correctly. And I know what I'm looking at and reports to look at. But you then have a good foundation of, this is what's happening in my business. This is what my numbers mean. So when you do get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm ready to turn over the bookkeeping to a professional bookkeeper, you now know, okay, I know what they're supposed to be doing. I know what I'm going to see when they give me reports. I'm not confused. I can provide a little bit of oversight as well, because, you don't want someone just doing something without you actually being able to tell if something is wrong. So that's a big thing for me.
Yeah, Misa, I love that overview for a few reasons, particularly because, anytime we have a lawyer on, anytime we have CPAs on, they always say you need to figure out your business structure up front, you need to hire somebody, and you're saying, no, you have to do it right out of the gates, but you can also leverage the counsel and the guidance of a professional to set you on the right foot until you get to the point where you are able to hire someone. Talk to us about that importance, because I actually think, it's a cliched piece of advice of start today, now is the best time. You need this stuff already. And you are reiterating that, but tell entrepreneurs, particularly in the beginning, where they probably have a heck of a lot more expenses than they do revenue, why it's so important to start out with that bookkeeping. And also, sorry, this is a totally loaded question, but layer on, how practical is it for newer entrepreneurs to start doing it themselves?
So it's important because when you're starting out of business, like, you're not really sure what's going to happen. You're not really sure, maybe you're not sure how big you want to grow, or, just how things will work. So when you start off, just at a minimum, tracking your expenses, you'll at least know, okay, well, it's costing me X amount to do this part. So I'm like, I need to make sure that I'm earning at least that amount of revenue to cover those expenses. Or when you're really starting to think about growth, then you're like, okay, if I want to grow, I need to be able to earn X amount, but you don't know what that amount is because you haven't been tracking anything. And at a very, very minimal level, I mean, you could pull out a spreadsheet. I mean, even pen and paper if you wanted to, go a little old school. But just knowing like what money is coming in, what money is going out is a good starting place, because most people don't even know that. And then when they actually get into the numbers, they're shocked and they're surprised because they're like, well, where did all my money go? Or wait, I thought I was earning more, or I'm just not sure what's happening. Like, what's really going on? But it's because they haven't been paying attention to their bookkeeping. And the thing about starting, it can feel very overwhelming, because for people who don't like numbers, or they're just like, I don't understand what's going on, they're like, this is a lot, and it can be a lot. But when you're starting, I always encourage, ask for help sooner rather than later. So I'm like, if you're like, I'm starting a business, go find a bookkeeper, an accountant, someone who can help you, and just say, how can I start? Like, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm starting on the right foot? And that's as simple as it gets as far as starting. Just ask for help, because that's probably the hardest thing for most people, and especially entrepreneurs, to do. It's like asking for help, because it's like, wait, I'm a business owner. I should be able to do this. I should know this. But it's like, we don't know everything. And it's okay to ask for help, because when you ask for the help early on, it's going to make your path so much smoother, especially on the financial side of things, because we don't want problems down the line.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so much fun for me to hear you give that advice, because I feel like it took me probably a decade of being an entrepreneur. I'm fortunate that I started so young, but probably only until about 10 years into my entrepreneurial journey, I realized, holy cow, I can pretty much get access to anyone and get really good advice by just saying, can I pay you for an hour of your time? Can we go over your expertise? Because you're really freaking good at this. And Misa, you just revealed that you're a fellow entrepreneur. There's so many things about growing a business that we don't know. We can't know it. We can't be a specialist in all of this. And I also love how you bring in, the importance of understanding how much money we need to be earning. It's so cliche because of the Gary V's of the world. I'm going to throw some shade at the Grant Cardones of the world, saying we need to be a 7-figure business. But for so many of us, the goal starts a heck of a lot lower than that. Misa, you've worked with so many different types of businesses. Talk to us about setting that revenue goal so that we can start having that target, and then understanding the finances that support us to get there.
So my approach to thinking of what your revenue goal is actually to start personally. So think about, okay, me as a person, me and the lifestyle that I want to live, what do I actually need to live my life? And that's the first number to start with. So it's like, if I need X amount to, pay my bills, travel, do whatever it is I want to do in my life, that's the first number to start with, because that's the number your business, one, needs to be able to pay you. So then we can then take that number and kind of work backwards. So it's like, I need this number for my personal life, to live my life in the lifestyle that I choose. And then, so that means I need to make sure I'm at least bringing in that amount of profit, because that's what I need to be able to pay myself. And then of course, there's taxes in there too. So probably have to bump that up a little bit. But then also, and then we can keep working backwards, and then you take your business expenses. What are your average business expenses for the month? That you can take that number and you'll have a good number to say, okay, I need X amount to cover all of my business expenses. If I have this, I'm good. So now you have all these different numbers, and you can work your way backwards up into the revenue number, which is then the actual number that you need. So then you can see, oh, I don't need to make seven figures. I just need to make, 50,000, 100,000, whatever it is. That's your true revenue number. And it's very specific and personal to just you, because not everyone wants to live the same type of lifestyle. And that's perfectly fine. But it's also important to realize that you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. You can literally do what you want to do for your life and plan your business and grow your business however you desire.
Yes, amen to that. And if you think about it, it's why we all start our businesses, is to live the lives that we want to live. So it's only fitting. Misa, I love that approach to start with your personal goals, your personal lifestyle, because that's also something that we can calculate. We know what our rent or mortgage is. We know our car payments, insurance, life expenses, groceries. We know all of those things. And that's an incredible starting point. But obviously, that's only half of the equation, talking about revenue. Let's switch to the expense side. And in your line of work, I'm sure this is something that you see so much of. Like I already alluded to earlier, entrepreneurs love expenses. We love investing in ourselves to make even more, to grow our skills, to grow our businesses. You've seen so many books, Misa. I can't even imagine the things you've seen in your line of work. What are some of those expenses that you see entrepreneurs doing and you're just like, no, that's like, why are you spending your money there? And then on the flip side, what are some of those good expenses?
So one of probably the biggest expenses would be like continuing education type of expenses. So, business coaches or courses, because, we live in the internet area, social media. There's so much information and things that you can learn now, and you can literally just sign up for a course or get a business coach or, whatever it is. But that's usually like a big, big area that business owners are spending their money. And sometimes they're not necessarily getting that money back. So that's always something I talk to clients about when we're looking at their reports. If we see expenses that are really high, and I'm like, okay, what is this expense? And if it is one of those like continuing education things, it's like, okay, well, you put in this investment. Is it going to earn you the revenue that you need to kind of pay, to pay yourself back for that? Because essentially that's what it should do. If you're investing in yourself to help grow your business or take your business to the next level, you should start to see an increase in your revenue to show that, yes, that course, that coach, whatever it was, whatever that investment was, it made a difference. And it's showing because now I can see that revenue coming in. And it's like when you're spending all this money on all these different things, but you're not really getting anything in return, it's almost like you just wasted all of that money. And then on the flip side of that, good things to invest in. I mean, I love technology, so I'm always one to invest in things that'll help you. Like it may not take everything off your plate or, there might still be some manual processes or things in place, but utilize technology in whatever way possible. So if there's specific software and apps that you want to try, go ahead and try them. But also, like once you try them, pick one. Don't have 5 or 10 different, software of the same type. So pick something, go with it, go all in, utilize it to the full extent, and make sure that you're getting your money's worth for those type of things. So that's just a couple of things that I come across.
Misa, we are putting so much of the industry on blast with that bit of advice because you're right. We love investing in courses, but so frequently it is back in it was probably episode 9 of this podcast. We had Greg Faxon on where he calls it creative avoidance. And he's just like, are you avoiding what you actually should be doing by taking this course because you're afraid to actually just do the thing? And in so many cases, that's absolutely true. So I love that advice. And I also love the advice. I'm going to call it out for every listener here of pick the 1 or 2 or 3, however many you need technologies that will enable it, and get rid of the rest. Misa, once a quarter, I go through all of my recurring charges and I think to myself, gosh, I've been paying $97 a month for that tool. I've wasted $600 over the past 6 months just letting that tool keep charging me, and I don't even use it anymore. So I love that as a check-in, and I think that shows a big light as to why it is so important to do monthly, weekly, quarterly reviews of your finances, because all this stuff is going on in there. Now, I have to ask you this because I know I'm guilty. Misa, you'll have to forgive me, and all of our listeners, all of us, especially when we start out, our finances are all over the place. Our books are all over the place. They're on personal credit cards. They're in personal checking accounts. Obviously, we get the advice to not do that. But talk to us about, from your vantage point, some of the easy things you've seen entrepreneurs do to set themselves up for success when it comes to organization.
So you briefly touched on it, but yes, separating business and personal it's the key to making your financial life easier. And I'm like, even in the beginning, even if you haven't opened like a business account, open just a separate dedicated account that you will only use for business, and literally just use it for business. As far as moving money, if you need money for personal, transfer it out of your business dedicated account to your personal account, and vice versa. So if you need to fund your business, you need money to add to your business account, transfer money from your personal to your business. Like, keep it completely separate, because it'll be helpful just in general to have everything separated. But then also it's going to make bookkeeping easier too, because say you are someone, you haven't been looking at your books, you're like, I'm waiting until tax season. Well, at least you'll have one dedicated account that has all of your business transactions in one place, and you can go through all of that, versus now you have all your personal accounts and you've been charging things on this card, that card, this account, and now you have to kind of sift through everything. And you're going to get frustrated because you're like, why do I have to do all this? And it's like, if you just set it up in the beginning, keep it completely separate, like completely separate. Every now and then, maybe, you use the wrong card, but in those cases, it should just be just a few. Like, it shouldn't be all the time. So just completely keep it separate, and it will make your life and probably your future bookkeeper easier and happier.
Yeah, Misa, I feel like it's advice that listeners, for sure, let's face it, they've heard it on different podcasts, they've heard it in YouTube videos, they've read it in blog posts, but so many people don't do it, which kills me, because having done it myself multiple times for so many of my own businesses, I realize how easy it is. But we have to admit, it is intimidating, particularly for newer entrepreneurs, as they wonder, what do I need to show that I have a business? Do I need to have a bunch of money in there? Talk to us about those actual logistics. And Misa, I'm going to open the floor for you, because I love Relay, and in my research for figuring out how you work across your clients, I see that you're also a big fan of Relay. So I've never talked to listeners about Relay. So take it away. Talk to listeners about how easy it is to get set up right, and why you love, and maybe it's not just Relay, but talk to us about why you love certain business solutions for entrepreneurs.
So speaking on Relay briefly, I love Relay because, well, I mentioned I love technology, and it's an online bank. You can open an account, and what's wonderful about them is they have up to 22 accounts in one place. So you can literally log in and have all these different accounts that you can choose of how you want to kind of allocate funds. So if it's you're really trying to maintain your cash flow, you can actually set up accounts for particular items. So if you need operating expenses, if you want payroll, if you want whatever, you can actually set those specific accounts up and then put funds in those accounts to allocate however you want to spend it. And the wonderful thing also is they don't have any minimums or monthly fees, which is wonderful, because most banks are going to charge you a fee. So it depends on the person, because I know not everyone is a fan of, online banks or using that type of technology, but just pick an account. You can pick a bank that is down the street, your local credit union. You can pick if you have an account with an existing bank, you can go there. It doesn't matter who you choose. It's just important that you choose someone and that you open an account that is dedicated specifically for your business. And that's as simple as it gets, at least to start.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that and totally sing the praises of Relay. We promise this is not sponsored by Relay. And by the way, if you are interested in signing up for Relay on Misa's website, which we're going to plug at the end, it's just, what is your website? It is perfectlykept.books.com. If you go on perfectlykept.books.com and you click resources, you're going to see that Misa lists her recommended resources right then and there. And you can sign up for Relay using her link as well. So just big benefits to be referred in by somebody that you know and trust. And obviously Misa laying so many knowledge bombs, but I am going to sing Relay's praises just really quickly. Misa talked about having up to 22 different accounts within your account, all for free. So for example, every week for me, all the money that comes into my various businesses, and each business has its own accounts, but when that money comes in, it automatically distributes it. It sets aside 20% for taxes, 10% into my growth fund. It keeps money in our operating expenses. So I'm never paying business expenses out of my own pocket. The businesses have their own money. So Misa, I love that advice. And because listeners are probably thinking, gosh, wait, I didn't know that was out there and I can just sign up for free. Misa, keep the good train going of tools that you love for business owners who are maybe thinking, well, I don't know what it's like to keep my books. How do I even do that besides just, you already talked about the old school way, spreadsheets?
Yeah. So my bookkeeping software of choice is QuickBooks Online. I love it. I'm in it every day, and it can be a little intimidating because it has a lot of power for a bookkeeping software. And a lot of times people will sign up and they're like, oh yeah, okay, I can do this, but it can be confusing. So if you do sign up for whatever software you choose, that's where you can reach out to someone, like me or another bookkeeper and say, hey, I'm trying to manage my own books. How can I do this? And someone can actually walk you through it, because that's one of my favorite things to do is actually sit on a call with someone and show them how to use QuickBooks and let them see that it doesn't have to be intimidating. It can be simple if they just follow these steps and just, click these few buttons. Don't click all the 10 million buttons that are in there, just these few. And if you can do this, then you can manage it on your own. And usually when you kind of take the overwhelm out of it, people are at ease and they're like, okay, I think I can actually do this. And it has been proven multiple times that, yes, you can do it. Business owners can do it on their own. And I 100% support doing that, because I believe a business owner should be empowered by their numbers and they should understand what's going on and not just leave it to someone else to tell them what's going on.
Yeah, Misa, and on that topic, I think this is one of the things that I really love about your approach is that you're perfectly okay admitting, hey, yeah, I get that this can be intimidating. You talk about QuickBooks, there are so many buttons. And you're right, whenever I go into my QuickBooks, I'm just like, okay, let me only press things that I know for sure what they do. But this is actually something I've never asked, and all the different financial experts, bookkeepers, accountants that we've had on this show in the past, I've never straight up exposed this for listeners to hear. But Misa, I'm sure a lot of people are intimidated even in general by just working with a bookkeeper, thinking, well, how does that even work? Do you get access to all my bank accounts? Do I have to take pictures of receipts? Talk to us about what it looks for business owners to work with a bookkeeper.
This is a really, really big thing that I like to encourage people, when they are looking for a bookkeeper, approach it like dating, because essentially that's what you're doing. You don't have to pick the first bookkeeper that you come across. You don't. There are a ton of bookkeepers out there. So you kind of want to, date around, see who matches well. You want to make sure they know what they're doing, but then also you want to see if there's a personality match. Because I think that's more important than anything is this someone you're going to get along with and you're going to enjoy working with? Because you're essentially building a long-term relationship with someone, and you want to like that person. You don't want it to be I never hear from them, or they don't answer my questions, or, I just really don't like them. You want it to be an enjoyable relationship. And so take the time to actually find a good bookkeeper. And then when you do find that person, you want it to be someone that you trust, because yes, you will want to give them access to pretty much everything. So they'll have access, read-only access. Most banks have where they can have read-only or view-only access. So they can't actually make transactions in your bank accounts, but giving them the direct access so that they can better manage your books without having to go to you for everything. They can pull statements and they can review certain transactions without having to go to you. Because when you hire them, at that point, you're not supposed to be in the day-to-day bookkeeping. They're managing that, and then they can reach out to you for questions or clarification. But trust is going to be the biggest thing, because they do have access to literally all of your financial information. it's very intimate and it's very personal. And so that's why I'm like, when you're looking, don't just go with anybody. Like, it really needs to be a good match for you. And so that means not everyone is going to get along with me. Not everyone would want me to be their bookkeeper. And that's fine. There's someone for them. And so that's the approach I want people to take, is to look at it like dating. So take your time, interview however many you need to. If you need to get, feedback from people who've worked with them, do whatever you need to do to make sure that you have found your person. But then also on the flip side, if you think you found your person and maybe it's not working out, it's okay to find someone else. Like, it's okay. I've heard that a few times where they're like, I already hired a bookkeeper, but, I don't really like them. Like, can I find another one? I'm like, yes, you can. Like, you don't have to stick with anyone if you don't want to. And especially if y'all aren't getting along. Like, that's not the type of relationship you want to have, especially on the financial side of things.
Yeah, I love that overview. And I love the dating analogy, because you're right. It is, what's more intimate in our businesses than giving an outsider the keys to the kingdom, everything that's coming in and everything that's going out. But Misa, I'll tell you what, I love on your website the client love section, because it's clear that, obviously I've gotten a feel for your personality here today, and I've already known that you love what you're doing, but it's also clear in reading your testimonials that people really enjoy working with you. And I think that one thing that I'm really excited to highlight for listeners, when here obviously we're talking about bookkeeping, is to illustrate that this is part of your business's growth strategy. This is part of you as an entrepreneur stepping into the CEO role and saying, wait, I want to understand my trajectory. I want to understand what's going on. And you just highlighted for us the reason why we give bookkeepers keys to the kingdom is that you're proactively taking care of the books. You are proactively creating the documents that are going to highlight to us, hey, here's your income statement. Here's exactly what happened in your business last month, last quarter, this year, last year. And so talk to us about some of that, because I know, having worked in so many different industries with real life clients, some really cool businesses, by the way, everything from, more freelance type clients, copywriters, brand strategists, to agencies, to everybody. Talk to us about how embedded bookkeeping is in the actual growth strategy.
I don't know if people really understand like how connected it is to everything. And when you think about it, it's like, okay, when you run a business, there's money coming in, there's money going out. All of that has to do with bookkeeping, because that's exactly what bookkeeping is. It's tracking everything that's going in and out with your money. And so when you understand like what's actually happening with the money, then you can actually you can take a step back if you need to be like, okay, spend a little too much in this area. Let's readjust. Or it's okay, I want to boost my revenue. So maybe I need to make an investment in marketing and advertising in, whatever way you want to do that. And hopefully, boost your income. And every single thing that you're spending money on is going to be tracked. So if you happen to spend money on, maybe you hire someone to do some work for you, and maybe that work didn't go as great. It didn't go great. It didn't go as planned. And you're like, I just spent this money and it didn't do anything for me. But the only way you would know that is when you look at your bookkeeping. Because I love to do this with business owners, is when we look at their numbers and, let's take contractors, for instance. Say you're paying someone for something and it's like, well, you're paying them to help you with marketing. Okay, it may not be right away that you see a return on that investment, but you should see it at some point. You should be able to say, okay, I'm spending this amount of money on this marketing service, and let's see, I'm not seeing any changes in my revenue. Let me go back to them and say, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Because there should be a return. If you're putting in an investment, there should be a return, especially if it's something that's supposed to grow your business. You will see the growth in your numbers. If you're paying for something and your income isn't changing at all, it's a good time to kind of evaluate what's actually happening and whether or not you should still be investing in those services.
Yeah, I like that overview because, Misa, honestly, as you were talking about those examples, as a business owner myself, I'm just like, gosh, there is so much for us to stay on top of in our businesses and actual strategic decisions that we have to make day to day. And the more you talk about it, the more I'm just like, yeah, you are our teammate in the background being like, hey, this is where your money's going. Like, let's make sure that you're actually maximizing it. This is where your revenue's coming from. Let's make sure that you're actually clear on what's working so you can double down, 10x down on it. And I think it fits in perfectly as we come towards the end of today's episode, right on perfectlykept.books.com. It's your headline right there. And I'm sure it has a multitude of different meanings because you are also a very mission-driven entrepreneur, but your headline is empowering bookkeeping services. It's empowering for the women-led businesses. It's empowering for business growth. It's empowering to have a grasp on all of these things. So I really love that headline. Misa, we talked about so many things during today's session. We talked about Relay as a great business banking tool for entrepreneurs, QuickBooks, the importance of understanding your revenue side as well as your expenses side, so much. And as we come towards the end of this episode, I'm going to task you with the difficult job of tying it into a nice little package and a bow for listeners. If they're listening to this saying, holy cow, I've got a lot of work to do. What should I do next? What's your best advice for them?
My best advice is first, determine whether or not you have separated your finances. Make sure you have separate personal and business accounts. If you haven't done that, start there. So do that first before you do anything else. Once you've done that, then determine how are you going to handle your bookkeeping. Whatever decision, whether you want to actually use a software like QuickBooks Online, whether you want to use a spreadsheet, whatever you want to use is fine, but decide what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. That's the only way to make sure it gets done. Put it on your calendar. This is going to be my bookkeeping time so that you make sure it gets done. And then third, go ahead and reach out to a bookkeeper, accountant, whoever you need to, and just get a feel for what you might be missing or ask any questions that you already have. Most people have questions. You have questions just because you're just like, okay, I saw this or I heard this or I read this. So let me ask someone this question and see if it's true, if it's valid, or if it's something I need to pay attention to. So if you can hit those three things, you will be on the path to greatness, and you probably won't have issues later down the line when it comes to your finances.
Yes, I love that. And Misa, I know that you and I hadn't talked before we hit record today about all the awesome resources that you personally offer to listeners. So I'm going to be the one to be like, hey, listeners, on behalf of me, someone who's done so much research on the way that you operate, you do have so many incredible resources on your website, perfectlykeptbooks.com, including, it's one of my favorite resources that you offer, the free bookkeeping checklist for people who want to DIY their own bookkeeping. So definitely go check that out, as well as, like I said, this was already a teaser, links to incredible business options for entrepreneurs like Relay, which is a great business checking account. You even have a link there. A lot of times we hear people give this advice, but you need an EIN to be able to open a business checking account. You link straight to, it's like a 5-minute process to get your EIN for free. Yes. So I'm not going to say anything else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Misa, with all of that said, obviously I'm kind of tooting your horn here, but I want to open the stage for you as we come towards the end of this interview. Tell listeners where the heck they should go to learn more about you and the way that you operate under Perfectly Kept Books.
So you can find me a couple of places. So of course, you mentioned my website, so perfectlykeptbooks.com. You can find pretty much anything that you need to either get in touch with me or find out about services or resources that I have available. So you have my website, and then you can also find me on Instagram, at Perfectly Kept Books. On there, you'll see me sharing all kinds of bookkeeping content, and I try to make it a little fun, make it a little bit more exciting than just kind of bland old bookkeeping. But if you have questions about specific bookkeeping topics, I'm probably have covered a piece of content on it. And then, of course, if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me through my website or through Instagram, and I would be happy to talk to you.
All right, awesome. So listeners, as always, you can access those links that Misa just mentioned wherever it is that you're tuning in to today's episode. I also just want to add one thing, is that one of the benefits, and this is just me speaking directly to you, the listener, one of the benefits I've found, and as long as I've done this, is when you sign up for these incredible services from experts like Misa, they are always on top of the best deal. So for example, if you listen today and you're thinking, gosh, I should probably have QuickBooks Online. Like there's no excuse for me to not have that. On Misa's website, you get 30% off QuickBooks Online when you sign up for 6 months. It's those types of deals that if you just go to their website, you may not get the best price. So experts like Misa have these resources, perfectlykept.books.com. Misa, I could talk about this stuff with you for days, and I know you for sure could because you really love what you do. So thanks so much for coming and sharing all your knowledge with us on the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.